Hi everyone, and welcome to my channel called zuzanareacts, where I learn all things India with your help. And I just share my Slovak Central European point of view. And today's video, I'm so excited because we're going to look at a podcast of, I need to double check the name properly, uh, Rajarshi Nandy, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly. And it's an episode on Tantra. I'm quite interested actually in Tantra. I've had a conversation with my Indian friend, and I thought like our understanding of Tantra, I thought about a particular way was quite different. So I'm quite curious what I will learn because I don't think I've ever properly delved into this topic. So this is super duper exciting for me. But before we do dive in,
Please like this video and click on the subscribe button and turn on the notification. Thank you so much for your support.
okay, so let's get going.
So welcome back.
Thank you
Third
so
epic
much.
episode of this series. How are you feeling?
Good. Wonderful.
I have a feeling this is going to be the heaviest episode.
Let's see.
Maybe the darkest, because the kind of stuff I wanted to speak about on this one, we touched upon it in the last episode.
Right.
But I think this is the episode where we actually unpack. And feel free to also share experiences on this
Sure.
one. Because the kind of path you're on, experiences meet you.
Yes.
And we spoke about beings on the last episode. We spoke about the nature of the soul on the last episode.
Yes.
But I think a great starting point for this one would be the higher beings, which might be considered harmful. And we've had a lot of people who've come on the show, kind of just touch upon those topics. I feel when you're a tantric practitioner, you have a much more intimate understanding about these beings, these topics. You don't need to expand on this answer if you don't wish to. Have you come in contact with such beings?
Eventually, somewhere or the other, your paths will not clash exactly, but even if it's unavoidable as a part. So I am saying that it is not that you will have to actually actively pursue them. You pursue the upasana, the practice of the deity you are worshipping. But eventually, as you go higher, chances are that once in a while you will interact with these beings and these entities. I remember one instance I was for practicing, I was doing some practice, and then suddenly I remember a peculiar kind of heaviness I started feeling. And there were thoughts which were completely strange, which means thoughts of murder, suicide, things like that, out of the blue. Initially, I just rejected it. Okay, didn't pay too much attention. Dreams started coming, which were very negative. Now, this state continued for 2-3 days.
What kind of dreams?
Very violent kind of dreams of death, destruction, this, that. More of a kind of nightmarish quality to the dreams, where you are portrayed in a, you see yourself engaging in certain kinds of very harsh activities. 2 days it continued. Most of the time when I used to keep myself busy to get out of it, work and other things, office work, stuff like that, etc. But after the second, third day, I felt that none of this is my thoughts. One of the first things is, as you go deeper into yoga, you know that not half, 90% of the thoughts are not even your own. It's just passing through various sources or somewhere else. Your mind, it passes to your mind, and you attach yourself to it, and you think it's you are thinking it. So first thought that struck me very clearly, that this is not mine, because I don't think like this. Okay, I know myself. I know what is the standard pattern of my thoughts. Even if it's negative, how far it can go. I know that it can't go beyond this, etc. So that third day, it was so disturbing that I was not able to meditate. I was not able to do anything, and there was constant bombardment in the mind of very strong thoughts of extreme negativity, violence, death, this kind of stuff. So I remember I came back from office, and at night I started mantra sadhana of Matara, right? And for 2.5 hours, I did full mantra japa with little bit of puja and mantra japa. After that, after that, I did a small fire ritual to Matara.
Why specifically Ma Tara?
Because I was worshipping her at that time.
Okay.
I was worshipping Matara at that time. And after a point of the practice, after a point of the sadhana, it reached a very, very detached, very beautiful condition. It was her blessing, kripa, we call it. Reached a very detached condition. So I was there, but I was kind of detached from myself, and I could see things which otherwise I would not be able to perceive. And that's when I was there alone in the room. Right in front of me, there were two entities standing. Okay. One was significantly negative looking. It's very short in height, but very negative kind of. Just look at the appearance and you'll feel a little cringe.
Could you describe the appearance a little bit?
No, it's like humanish, but the vibe was very, very negative. The eyes were very specific. It was like I was sitting here, and I think just a few distance from here was standing this guy, this entity, this being. It was the feeling that you have that it has a human appearance, but it is not human. I mean, it's difficult to describe it properly, but that's the typical feeling that you will get. And you could feel that it's like dripping with negativity. And then behind it, there was another entity, which was very calm, and it felt even more dangerous. But there's that cold evil that you have, the sense that you feel like, etc. At the time, I had no idea what those entities are. But what happened was, because of the force of the mantra that I was doing, these were the ones who were causing this whole ruckus in my head, and things were. And also, yeah, I was having a lot of conflicts. To suddenly, out of the blue, just like that, fights with people, and fights over things that is not my normal propensity. I know that I may fight over XYZ, but this is not what I am. I knew it very well. So
I think to truly understand what Sir's saying, you have to actually listen to the previous episode, because you spoke about astral existence, which means that within your body, there are 3 bodies.
Yes.
One's the physical body, one's the astral body, one's the causal body.
Yes.
And these bodies exist on different planes, which are present all around us in our realm as well. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And where we exist also exists the astral plane that contains higher beings.
Right.
And when you were meditating, you were able to kind of access that plane, or rather you were able to remove your brain's filter in some ways?
No, these entities can come to you for various reasons. There's no specific rule, hard and fast rule. As I said, sometimes your practice may be going very deep. That's when they will come to interfere. That's a very typical strategy they have.
Why?
That's their nature. That's just their nature. We think of it we rationalize things from our point of view, that we are like this. So if you put your hand inside a tiger's mouth, 5 times out of 5 times you do, 4 times it will bite you. Because it's just its nature to do so. So their dharma, as I was saying, some of these entities, their specific dharma is to cause disturbance, and they feed on that
in people's sadhana,
in people's lives, etc. There are some beings who will come and interfere specifically to those who are into practices. Other normal beings, normal person, they will not interfere with. If you're doing a practice, that is when they will come and try to disrupt your practice. The whole aim is somehow break the rhythm. The moment the rhythm is broken, your energy is going to fall. Energy fall means you will not reach where you are supposed to reach. That's all. And we have evidences of this in the older. If you read the Ramayana, you see that Lord Rama was brought by Rishi Vishwamitra because they were asuras destroying the yagyas. So he asks a very young Lord Rama and Lakshmana that please come and protect the yagya. Yagya is the fire ritual, elaborate Vedic ritual of the worship of the gods. Okay? And they come and they fight with the asuras and the rakshasas, and they remove them. So there are specific entities whose role specifically has been since historical times, since ancient times. Wherever there are upasana, worship of devatas going on, they will come to interfere. And depending on your caliber, that will be matched by the caliber of the entity that is coming, by the way. It is, for a person who is starting the journey, do not expect that you are not Vishwamitra, so no Rakshasa or Asura is going to come so easily to you. They influence, they obstruct when there is a large scale intense upasana happening, which can have a strong positive impact on a lot of people. That they will obstruct. And the other is, sometimes they influence people. And they influence people, only those people through whom they can cause large amount of destruction. They're not interested in one single individual. They are absolutely no interest in you, me as an average individual. You can go about doing your life. And I'm talking about asuras, which are the highest of the negatives in our dharma. There's nothing beyond the asuras in negative scale, if you look at it that way. But they will only interfere and influence only those beings, those people, those entities through whom they can cause a lot of destruction. Which is why I think Sri Aurobindo had written that.
Wow, I'm going to stop right here because there's just so many thoughts, and I just don't want to forget what I was saying. Very interesting. First of all, getting outside thoughts. I genuinely feel that this is a thing. Even I myself, it doesn't happen that much anymore, but it used to. And I was also feeling like him. These thoughts, however, were luckily not negative, but they were positive, or in a way, like I would feel anxiety or something where I would be like, but I'm okay, I'm happy, nothing bad is happening. Like, why am I feeling this way? So it's certainly very much possible. And it's interesting how he talks, and how I get the Indian perspective, because obviously I've been following these things for years and years, and I know people as well. And for sure, there are dark entities there, and they can materialize, and you can see them. I know people, when he's talking that, he's seen them, and that they can interfere with your thoughts. I know someone who had when things are going well, this is when they come in and disrupt him, and he starts having these thoughts. It's not nice. And for sure there are the negative entities that might possess you. We do have exorcists here, and I also do understand the levels of Yeah, we do absolutely have astral body, and also, there are those entities depending on the strength of your spirituality. There, I don't want to say matching you, but that's kind of how I understood it as well. And they are like, I know people they're doing psychic battles like in different planes. So it's interesting to hear the validation of this.
Hitler was being influenced by an asura, because through him so much destruction could be caused.
While there's many more questions I have, so I want to
So when it comes to Hitler, I've heard multiple theories that he was aided by dark forces from different realms, etc., by aliens. They were selling him technologies, etc. So I just know way too many people for me not to almost believe this. I take it as at the face value, but it's definitely an interesting topic.
actually address the skeptics here as well.
Okay.
There's a lot of skeptics when it comes to topics like this.
Mm-hmm.
My viewpoint about skeptics is that there is a place for skepticism in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, progress in the world moves forward often because of skepticism.
Mm.
When we talk about scientific progress, material progress. But when it comes to skeptics about things like this, be it dharma, be it tantra, be it bhoot, pret, pishach, rakshasas, the argument often is either where's the evidence, or these are stories that encapsulate and capture emotions and are then used to manipulate people. And also, it's like just, I think skepticism as a concept is something that's present in minds that treat only science as God.
Mm-hmm.
Now, science is important for the world, and it's a very integral part of the world. It's full of integrity. Science is a very honest approach to life, but it has its own limitations. That's why we have scientists in the world to kind of constantly break those limitations and see what's beyond. This is about all the stuff that's beyond. And of course, when you're talking about stuff that's beyond, it can be used negatively. Then you can just go crazy with it. But what's your answer to the skeptics watching the podcast at this point?
So, in general, I never try to convince a skeptic, because I had been a skeptic at one point of time. So I believe that it's a natural progression on their own. So it is not something that can be proved via arguments. So no amount of argument is good enough to convince a skeptic, because the mind gets said that, okay, I don't want to believe it, don't want to believe it. However, there are people who are skeptics and who may suddenly have an experience, and I'm not even talking about a divine experience. This negative experience is even more dangerous. Okay. Have an experience, and then they suddenly, as I said, an experience that is outside of a normal realm of existence. How you react to it, how the mind reacts to it is very different. I mean, you may end up in a state of shock, and that doesn't matter how much skeptic you might be, you'll still end up in a state of shock.
Yeah.
Or if you're fundamentally very strong-willed, you will survive it, but your perspective will change.
Yeah. My answer to skeptics is let your experiences lead the way rather than the words you see in books.
Right.
Because there is a whole world beyond the world of books and literature and text as well. The world of intuition, the world of creativity, imagination. But if you still need proof for yourself, let your human eyes and senses find the proof. Go out and experience the world. Go out and meet new perspectives.
Correct. Absolutely true. The best way to do, if somebody is a genuine skeptic, but somebody who's a skeptic with a sort of an agnostic viewpoint, which means that you're not formed up your mind that yes or no, I will base it on evidence. That kind of a person, if he or she goes out, spend months, go out, meet people. I'm sure there'll be a lot of people who may be delusional frauds, but even after 10 frauds, you may meet somebody who's actually genuine, and you may come across an experience which you cannot explain through rational words, okay, through rational understanding. In fact, something like that is how I got changed into. I used to be just the average guy in college with no interest in this, zero interest
in engineering college.
Zero interest in these things. Then I had an experience once. I'd gone to the Durga Puja pandal, and Bengali, our Durga Puja is like, it's more both the religious festival as well as a cultural festival. So everybody goes there. So I was there, I remember, and I was looking at the year of Vigrah of Ma Durga, and suddenly for a few seconds, just like my mind entered into some kind of a zone. And normally, if you go to Durga Puja, you'll see that there is sound and noise and things like that. Everything stopped, cut, nothing, no sound. I could see the deity almost there, standing right in front of me. For a second, it was real than anything I've ever seen. Just real. I mean, you can't describe it. And very organically, I asked for two things: that if there's any truth to these matters, I'd like to know. And another prayer came out, which is more private, which I don't mention. But this happened. This whole thing must have happened for maybe 2 seconds or 3 seconds, not even that. Right after that, the rational mind kicks in, and rational mind says, "Oh, must be an illusion of the mind. Okay, this is impossible. All nonsense. You're just believing, making stuff up." I didn't even tell anybody, because I it's rejected from the mind. This must not have happened. I mean, how can this happen? This is obviously, some kind of a delusion or something. But strangely, 7 days later, I'm sitting with a friend of mine, and there is the friend's uncle. He's a very powerful, very advanced Upasaka. It's one of the people I consider as my gurus. So he had called up this friend, and he was just speaking to him, and asks him that so in Hindi he says that who's there in a room with you? Is there anybody there? So he says, yeah, just a friend is there. He says, pass the phone to him. So he gives me the phone, and I don't even know what to speak of. So I just say namaste, blurt out namaste, and he says, namaste, namaste. And then he says, I'll come to Bangalore for some office work. Meet me once. Okay. And after I hang up the phone, my friend is saying that people come from far and wide to meet him and all that. And all. So in my mind, there was a mix of curiosity. What is happening exactly? Okay. Officially, I was more of the agnostic, skeptic, Nastic, a non-believer kind of things. But there was this curiosity that why do people come to him? I said, why did he call? Let me go and see. So I went to meet him after a few days. He comes there and he's speaking to me. And suddenly I realized that he's speaking to me things that there is no way on earth he can know about me. Step by step, one after the other, what is going on in my life? I thought this some trick is going on. This is mind reading. Must be some hypnotism, mind reading, something like that. Because my rational mind is trying to justify that experience. How is it possible? And then he told me in coming months, XYZ things are going to happen with you. So yes, things like that. I have a restriction on mentioning his name in public, so that I will never do. He's very clear on that. But he was a very advanced Upasaka of Madhurga, of the Bhagavati.
You'll have to explain the word Upasaka again.
Upasaka is one who does sadhana, one who does practice of the deity. Okay. So that is where I remember during conversation with him, he gave me a mantra and said, do this mantra. Just chant this mantra. I was curious because once I analyzed in my own way, I analyzed and saw that this was not mind reading. There is nothing for him to gain from me. So if I were to hypnotize you and mind read you, I have to gain something. Why would I do it? Either I have to gain your appreciation, but why would I want your appreciation? You're a nobody. I'm just a college student. There's nothing there. Neither do I have a lot of money. He's not asking for my money. Anyway, I didn't have that much money, anything. So what exactly is this happening? Then just a thought came that, okay, let us assume for the sake of assumption that there is a possibility of something beyond what I can understand through rationality and whatever my limited understanding of rationality is. So then I asked him that how is this possible? So he said that is where the process is. You do sadhana. He gave me a mantra to chant. And for a year I kept chanting. Nothing happened. Then one day I called him and said that nothing is happening. Well, something has to happen. I mean, why will I waste my time doing this? There are so many other things in life to do. Okay. And I wanted some experience at that time. I started off. So first of all, my entry was like from a non-traditional background into this field. So I always say that I was more of a lateral entry into the path of the dharma in the path of here. Then he said, okay, you do an anushtanam, you take a sankalpa, as I was explaining. Sankalpa means you make a promise to the deity that I will do so much amount of sadhana in so many days with these XYZ rules. That's all. And then you follow those rules and do it.
But those rules were given by him.
Somewhat given by him.
Okay.
And somewhat, but it was still a more relaxed. It was not very complicated. You can make this very complicated also. The more tougher rules you put, the greater, and you succeed, higher is the result you'll get. Okay. But it was more of a thing that was kind of relaxed. Only thing was the timing was to be fixed. Every day at this specific time I had to sit at night. And it used to take me close to 1.5 hours of mantra japa. So I remember even during weekends when that time my friends would come and say, okay, let's go to a pub and things like that. I said, just wait for some time, I'll finish it and then we'll go. Okay. So I had no expectation that anything will happen. Just mechanically doing it. But I took it more as a challenge. Okay, these are the rules. Let's see, I'll do the rules. And I finished it. In 40 days, it was supposed to be 41 days, I remember. Then it was a Sunday at the end of it. Next day morning, it was Upasana of Bhairava, basically. I had not the faintest idea who was Bhairava. I am from the background who has very standard idea of gods. There is Shiva is there, Mahakali is there because Bengal Kali is most popular, and there's Krishna is there. Bhairava and all that, I have no idea. Who is this? So after the 41st day, I'm standing outside and I'm having coffee. I'm having very beautiful filter coffee. And I'm suddenly I see there are cars coming. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and all of them had the different cars, but not even a group together. It's like separate cars, individual cars coming, and each of them had this poster of Jai Bhairav, Jai Bhairav, Jai Bhairav. And Bhairava is not that popular in South, by the way. It's popular, not as popular as it is in some areas in North. By the time the 7th or 8th car came in, I was stuck that something is going on. This is not normal. This is something different. Because I have been here all the while. I've never seen so many cars, that too of a name that is not that popular. I can understand if it is Tirupati Balaji or some of the other deities, or in Maharashtra if it's Ganpati, I can understand. Very popular forms. But there it was not there, and just struck me in my head, but I again rejected it. I didn't take it too seriously. It could be a coincidence after all. I don't know. That night I was in the room sleeping, and 2:33 I woke up, and right in front of me I could see a presence.
Wow.
Of the deity, of the Devata.
Wow.
Of Bhairav?
Yeah.
Which is supposed to be a scary form of Shiva.
Scary because your mind is not accustomed to taking it. Okay. And I got scared. I got full scared. I was like, kya raha hai? I remember next day I called him up, my guru.
Can you describe what it looked like?
No, full I will not go into description.
Okay.
Just that he was standing there. Okay. And I couldn't sleep after that. Okay. Just standing. And I Actually, see, there are more things involved. Because so around Shiva or around Bhairava, there are always ganas. Gana means who are basically the family of the deity, who are greatly connected to the deity and from that realm. Okay. Specifically for Shiva, they're called Shiva ganas or Rudra ganas or Bhairava ganas. So if you do their upasana properly, and suppose you have some past life link or something like that is there, it is often the case that before the Pradhan Devatas, the primary deity you are worshipping, comes, one of these ganas will come just to see who is it calling. They don't mean you any harm, just to check. If you can't take their energy, how will you take the energy of the deity? Okay, but this is a very standard thing.
What do you mean take energy?
Take means you are able to see what happened. That whatever that entity, whatever that being was there, it was not negative at all. It was there. I got scared. And I called him. Next day I called him on phone and said that XYZ. He said it's okay, don't worry too much about it. If you're feeling too scared, go and stay with your any other friend's house 1-2 days and then come back. It will be fine. I did that 1-2 days later. Okay, and for a few days I stopped the practice because I could not process what happened. But then there is some urge within me that says that no, don't stop. Let's do it again. Let's see where it goes. Where does this stop? Where does this go? Like this, I kept continuing the practice. So this was one of my primary first experiences. Now, what happens is when a deity, when one of these great gods, whether it is Ma Durga, Shiva, any of this, suppose by some miracle or something were to come with the full energy, full Shakti, full power, even passes by near you, unless you are ready for it, unless your mind and body has the power to take that, you will be in a rattled state. Because this is a tremendously different energy. In fact, if you read that autobiography of Yogi, which you were referring to, I think I remember one of the chapters has a very interesting line when he's explaining about Kriya Yoga, and I read it long back. He says that if your body, so if you know, it's like your body is, imagine your body is like a 40-watt bulb. Okay, and if you instead of 40 watt, if you put in 1,000 watts of power, what is going to happen? It will crack. It doesn't have the capacity to take it. The whole process of upasana is that you attain to the fitness where you can take the interaction with a devata without either having any kind of a ye.
But what happens during the interaction? There's a sort of energy exchange?
No, then that depends. That's again, those are all very so if suppose you reach a very high state that there is actually a deity interacts with you, he or she will try to transform you, okay, into something more spiritual, something that will take you to higher zones. Okay, that is one of the primary things of deities if they come. And by the way, because this will be heard by a lot of people, there are many instances where people see deities, they feel they see something also, and yet it causes no transformation in them. Okay, they remain exactly as it is. So these topics are more complicated than they appear in what we can verbally explain properly. That's why the necessity of a good guru. To give an example, see in this case, so what happened is after that experience, my practice became more intense. Okay, that's good, fine. That's a sort of a blessing from the deity. There are people I know who see deities, who claim to have seen, and I'm not doubting them at all, but it has caused not the slightest change in them. On the other hand, if you go back and read the biography of a saint like Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, so he sees Ma Kali once, okay, once he sees, and it changes him into a saint. He becomes transformed completely. So not all seeing is same. That's why these things, we enter into zones which cannot be explained verbally easily. And that is why there is the necessity of somebody, a guru who can hold your hand and can, correct you or guide you, or what to take seriously, what not to get too attached to, things like that.
Wow. Okay.
Wow. I mean, I'll just stop there for a second. This is very interesting. I've never heard of people transforming, or like, obviously I'm hearing it from your part where you have deities. Here it's more like you're able to connect to angels and archangels, and I know people that do. I wouldn't see that it changes them in a sense, but I think it does, but in a way when perhaps they become a better people, or they find a different type of practice, etc. But there's also like a formula, for example, that because you have like a white and black witch and stuff like that in here. So for example, when you're calling angels, you have to ask them 3 times, but but I was also told by someone, when you do that, it kind of forces them to come. It's to some of his point earlier where they appear, but you can force them to come, which apparently is not advised. But I think what he's saying, like, you really do need a good spiritual practice, and I think I read the word guru as a guide or teacher that has attained certain spiritual practice that can guide you through these experiences, and that is exactly what happens in the West. There are like spiritual circles of people, or the people that have these skills and abilities, and they know how to navigate in that world, because it's a completely different kind of realm that I now was told, because I was always like craving to have those skills and abilities. I don't, but they said like to be very careful what you wish for, because you need to learn how to operate that. You need to have like a psychic protection, etc. So this is, I think, exactly what he's talking about here.
Can something evil, something demonic pose as a positive deity?
Absolutely. And it happens. 1-2 cases I knew of individuals.
And I know that as well. I was told by someone who is very, very psychic, and there are lots of instances of, and they told me like I had to go through my own spiritual evolution. I don't know what he's going to say, but I just wanted to mention that up front. Where the way we talk about it here is like they pose themselves as a false light, so they shine. Apparently they're like they exude that kind of bright light, like it's all good and positive, but it's actually not. And apparently if you're evolved, once you get evolved, you are able to discern between those false and real kind of interventions. And what happens when you get these deities, or in our case like just a different kind of astral plane entities, they can really possess you and they can do you really, really, really harm. So it's very, very dangerous. So when you're venturing into that world and realm, you better have someone that is genuine, is able to guide you. Now I have a friend who is a shaman, and she's also telling me that she actually trains a lot in India as well. That there are lots of the spiritual people where she goes like once or twice, and then she finds out that they're actually not super genuine. So it's a tricky world when it comes to this out there.
They can pose, sometimes they will come with a lot of effulgence, a lot of light, a lot of power, and a lot of things. But there is one trick to it. Trick means I say that it happens to people who worship. Now, on the surface of it, if you ask that why are you worshipping, they'll say I want moksha, I want liberation, I want because of my bhakti, etc., etc. But deep down, what is your secret desire? What is it that you want? So I'm worshipping that I become more powerful, or I'm worshipping I want XYZ, some things are there. Sometimes your greed and desire is much more than what you are allowed by nature. So what these entities will come, they'll first come with a lot of effulgence, lot of etc. These things, and then they will give you to some degree what you want. They will tell you that, oh, you want this, I'll make you the best in this thing, etc. There is always from deep within, it's like this principle that happens in the spirituality. No possession can happen without an affirmation from within. And affirmation is not verbal. Verbal speech is the worst of all speeches. It's the most useless of all speeches in the spiritual field. There are higher realms of speech where you don't utter any word, you can communicate. But verbal speech is the one where you can lie. And you lie not to the world, you lie to yourself. That is the worst part. Hundreds of people do that all the time. I am doing the puja for this purpose, that purpose, but your secret motivation is something else. And as is your motivation, so will be your activity. To judge a person, observe the actions, not look at the words. Words don't mean a thing. Deities don't care about your words. They see what is your secret motivation. So these entities often can come to people because of that, if there is some motivation for something else. And there is a greed to succeed fast. Motivation and speed. So you don't want to wait. You want the faster path. Normal for a deity person, normal, the gods we revere as the great gods, Shiva, Krishna, they are not going to come so fast to you. If it is happening very fast, then get yourself checked immediately. Either you are good, that's where you have to go to a guru. You cannot do it yourself.
How do you find a guru?
Take your time. Don't be in a hurry.
Hang on, I'll stop here. So whatever he's describing, I learned a lot about. I don't think I can say that out loud because I want this video to stay up. But just think about Hollywood and contracts done by, the actors, and think about how they're being done. This is exactly, I think, how it happens. I've read a lot about it.
You meet people, see if their words are, sort of gelling with you, but not just words. See the energy is gelling with you. And the other thing is important to note is that what is the Guru Parampara? Which means, what I mean specifically, it is applied to, since we are talking a lot about Tantra sadhana. So in Tantra, it is very important, Tantra sadhana, that who is the Guru's Guru? Who is the Guru's Guru's Guru? 3 generations of accomplished Gurus has to be there. There is no Swayambhu Guru. I don't know who my Guru's Guru is. One day morning, he got up and became enlightened. It doesn't work. It may work in some cases, but Tantra sadhana and all that doesn't work. Because a Guru is finally like, imagine a huge banyan tree. Guru is one of the branches or a fruit in that tree, but he's connected to that whole thing. Ecosystem is there. That is what a kula is. That is what a whole sampradaya is. The deity is his guru has worshipped, and his guru has worshipped. In fact, in Tantric Upasana, you have to do the worship of the gurus is very important. You have to do Tarpanam to the gurus. Tarpanam means basically a process by which you tell them that let you be satisfied. Okay, there's a method of doing it. We do it for Pitrus also, ancestors and all that who have expired in the Hindu ritual custom. After a year or so, or specifically, we do Tarpanam to them. We do Tarpanam to Rishis also. And we do Tarpanam to the Gurus, to the 3 generations of Gurus. It is necessary to do them. It is necessary to invoke their blessings when you're doing a sadhana so that they can protect you, they can guide you, they can ensure that the right knowledge is passing through you. You are never alone. You are just a part of this ecosystem. Even after having great Gurus, still you may not progress. Because there is another factor which is time. Mahakal, he is the lord of time. Until he sets the tone, this is the time for you to progress, you will not go. But still you practice. I remember once, long back, when I was initial days, one very advanced Upasaka, and I was a bit confused about certain things. He told me that, what if I tell you that you'll never make any progress in this lifetime? Would you continue the practice or would you leave it? So I was like, it was a rhetorical question, I didn't answer. So he says that it's a very simple thing. If the person says, genuinely, if you say, okay, nothing is going to happen, you're wasting your time, it's useless, this lifetime is not going to happen anything for you. So then he may think, what is the use of doing? I have so many other things I can do. He was not even meant for it in the first place. The person who can continue with devotion, even when there is no sight of the result coming, that is the person who has a chance eventually of succeeding. And nature is a very good filtering process. It may be Kali Yuga, it may be the time when all the sacred scriptures which were originally passed down to the Sampradaya, Guru to Shishya, are all open in the internet. Yet the number of people who succeed is exactly fixed. Not one extra will succeed. You can practice as much as you want. Somewhere or the other, something will happen. So nature has this very good filtering mechanism. Very good. I mean, there is no greater accountant than nature in the world.
Yep. I feel it's like kind of a river and a dam that you can keep trying even if you're not meant to do it, and then Mahakal will come and say, okay, now it's time. Lift that veil, gate of the dam, and then the river will flow with force.
Yes.
You'll probably progress really fast in the next book.
And in fact, one of the things that happens often is that initial stages, when I deal with other Upasakas, younger, and they're very promising and good people, the initial stages when they start, it goes like this.
Very fast.
Very fast. A lot of experiences. You enjoy it. Suddenly it will come this.
Plateau.
That is your test. How many people, 70% people will fall off in this stage because you'll get bored. And there are other more exciting things in life. And I'm saying this in a non-judgmental way. It's perfectly all right. If you don't like it, I have never in my life forced anybody into Upasana. In fact, my first principle is if anybody approaches me, try to get him off. Get him off. If this still sticks around and there are the propensities that he's meant to do it, and he's meant to do it through me, that is also there. He may be meant to do it, but maybe he's supposed to get it from somebody else. So I am not there to interfere in that process. Then I may give him one small, what I feel intuitively or something like that, and tell him, and then nature will take care. If he's serious, if everything is in set, 6 months, 1 year down the line, the seed will start showing fruits. Then you can decide that whether more guidance is required and how to go about interact and how to handhold, etc. necessary things. But not as a guru, but as an Uttar Sadhaka. Uttar Sadhaka is an advanced Upasaka, that's all.
There's a word called serendipity. It means that situations come together. So again, it's the same thing.
Yes.
That's effectively what you're saying, that when situations come together, progress will happen.
Yes.
When it's meant to happen, things will happen.
Yes. But there is a feedback loop in nature. So if you just wait that when situations will happen, I will not do anything right now, then the feedback loop is such that suppose you were to start a spiritual journey 10 years from now, nature can put it 10 lifetimes from now because you're not making any effort now.
All right. The key is to maintain your discipline.
Yes.
Okay.
Interesting.
Have to ask you about those higher beings now, because that was the theme of this episode. And you just touched upon it. You said Bhoot, Pret, Pishach, and then you Rakshasas
and Asuras.
Yeah. I will let you break down each of those, starting with Bhoot.
So
I will stop right here because there was just a thought that came to me about what he said earlier about, like, when you connect to the higher beings or entities. And what I was advised was like that in a way it's better not to communicate with them because you never know if it's like false light or so. But it's also it's about that you should always connect to your higher self. At least this is a concept that's closer to me. Obviously, that I'm just exploring these things on your end, but I just kind of wanted to share because you're just you're connecting to your higher self means like your source soul that oversees many different souls that kind of belong to you. I don't know what's the best way to describe that, but that's kind of how I understand it. So so for us here, people like they're practicing spirituality perhaps in our part of the world, that would be the concept that we are more maybe accustomed to, and that is kind of what I've been told, and I felt like I just wanted to relay that. But let's continue.
Very simply speaking, what we call Bhuta is discarnate entities, entities who don't have a physical presence, body like that, and they may be roaming around in this plane. Some of them were alive also. Okay, so their tendencies are very much human, and they have their own sets of just like that human beings are. They may like something. Just imagine a human being, but without the physical body. So some of them may have hunger, some of them may have anger, some of them may have lust, various things, etc. And for some reason or the other, they remain trapped in this plane. They're not able to progress further.
What do they do with that hunger and lust?
That's where the trouble comes in. Okay, so if they're agitated, then they are going to cause trouble to somebody or the other who may be around that same space. So I told you this astral and the physical are overlapping. Okay,
Like where the physical plane is, which is this plane around us, astral is at the exact same place. You just can't see what's happening in the astral plane.
It's like a piece of paper. Right on top, you've kept exactly another piece of paper, and you're looking from top. It looks like one piece of paper, but there are two.
But causal is not here.
Causal is much higher.
Okay, all right.
Okay, causal is like you have to lift yourself to the realm where all these things they'll all fall off. They also don't know. See, there is just a beautiful episode of Swami Tulsidas ji comes to mind. There's a Lord story. So he used to every day, he was a devotee of Lord Rama, and he used to go in the morning ablutions and all and puja part finish, and then the water used to come and drop under a banyan tree. Okay, and 40 days, 50 days he's been dropping under the banyan tree, and suddenly one bhoot comes from down the tree. He's been staying in that tree. So the bhoot says that I'm very pleased with you because you are dropping that water. I'm feeling happy because there is a method of tarpana that is to be done, but to satisfy the spirits, basically. It's done sometimes. But he was not doing it with that idea. He had no idea that there was anything in the tree. Just dropping the water. The spirit comes and says that, what do you want? I want to give you. He said that, but I was not doing to please you because I didn't even know you existed. He said, it doesn't matter. You still ask. And he says that, show me where is Lord Rama. And he says that if I knew, I wouldn't be stuck here. So then he says that, but I will tell you how you can go to somebody who can teach you where is Rama. He says that there is a Ramayana satsang that happens. Go there. You'll see that the person who comes in last and who goes at the very end, a kind of a cripple, you go and hold his arms. If he is pleased with you, he will teach you Rama. And that was Anjaneya, Hanumanji, who used to come in that form to listen to the Ramayana.
Wow.
So the point of the story is that these bhutas also do not have any idea about what is happening outside. Their knowledge is just as limited as human beings. But they suffer from that anger and they suffer from that sometimes. And they project that into anybody who comes in their environment, or they may project it into, and those are specifically who's are Pitrus. Pitrus means ancestors who are dead. They're dead, but they're stuck in a particular realm called Pitruloka.
Which is also part of the astral plane.
The astral plane. It's all in the astral domain only.
So when our ancestors die, if they've not progressed to heaven, they get stuck in the astral plane?
Not heaven. Heaven is fine. Rebirth.
If they're not able to take rebirth?
Yes, for some reason or the other.
Okay.
So they very often will take out their problems on their living descendants because they have the strongest genetic connection. And they're not even doing it consciously, perhaps. They get angry. That anger will be felt with whoever is the living descendant of that being.
And what does the living descendant do to get rid of?
There are rituals for this.
Okay.
There are specific places where you have to go and do. You cannot do these rituals at home. Okay. There are specific places where the right kind of Shakti or power is there. For example, Triambakeshwar in Nasik is one of those Shiva temples where certain kinds of ancestral problems can be solved. I mean, the Panditjis there, the priests, they know this. Then various other places. Gaya you can go. Gaya is one of the biggest places. Kashi you can go. Badrinath you can go. So these kind of things are there.
Without giving the name.
Okay, I'll pause there because I'll forget my thoughts. So what he's saying is the Bhuta is a formless entity. So when some of the souls, when they don't progress, and this is what I mentioned in my previous videos, like in order to get to quote unquote heaven or wherever, whatever it actually is, we cannot truly know. It's like you need to vibrate a higher frequency. So there are certain souls, we call them lost souls. That is what you call Bhuta. That just seems a bit similar. And they're formless, or it, like in my experience, for when I listen to people, they do take form. And I had someone in family that actually saw ghosts. And there was a ghost like right on, she would like wake up and that person would be staring at her. Or like, imagine you have a bed and across you have a door and someone is like in the middle of the door staring at you. They literally throw away clothes of her child. So they're very powerful. And she had to get something from the UK for a ritual, and that was the only way how she was able to get rid of it. Now he talks about like getting into temples. I feel like what perhaps he's also alluding to is more like an exorcism, and there's definitely like in Christianity there are priests that are exorcists and they are able to do that. I know so I'm a Reiki master. It's been many years now that I've done all of this. I don't really use it much, to be honest. I did it for my own protection because I do life coaching and I didn't want to overtake other people's energy. But the person would be exorcist, and he would be like going to old places and clean. He would talk about it as he was cleaning them, and certainly like lost souls. There was the person that used to in the Middle Ages behead people's heads, and he told me about it. Example where he was chatting with him and he said like, but can I go to heaven if I've done so much harm? And like, and they had a chat and he helped him to pass on the other side. So it doesn't necessarily need to happen I personally don't believe that you have to go to a particular place to make it happen. I think that there are different levels of negative entities that perhaps they require different treatment, but like I'm just sharing what I've heard from people.
Name of the movie, and the reason I'm not giving the name of this movie is because that was the whole plot of the film.
Okay.
They actually begin the film with the main actor trying to talk to his wife, and she's just pissed off with him. She's not listening, etc. And over the course of the movie, the main actor realizes he actually died and he's a ghost, and he's trying to interact, but she's not picking up on his presence, and he's taking it as, why are you upset with me?
Right.
Is this the reality of that plane? That sometimes when you're a ghost, you don't even know that you're a ghost, and you're trying to interact, but no one's interacting with you.
Yeah. I believe that.
Initial stages, it might be. There is a sense of shock. In fact, one of the brother disciples of Swami Vivekananda, he had written a very beautiful book called, in Bengali I read it, Moroner Pare, Life Beyond Death or something like that in English translation. So he mentions this, sometimes death can feel like you are like, right now you're here. Suppose there's a devastating earthquake that happens, everything is flattened, all the people you know are gone, whole building is crumbled, and you just, like you are sitting here and answer, next moment you see that nothing is there. So that kind of shock and devastation that will hit you, sometimes death hits like this to some souls. And then it becomes very difficult for them to recognize or accept the fact that they are not in the physical plane. So they will try and find out people or try to communicate or something like that. They're not ready to accept it.
What are we as living beings in their eyes?
That depends on who you are speaking about. That
you tell me so.
So if there is a normal is an entity that is stuck somewhere, after some time the realization does come to them that they're not in the physical plane, etc. But if they're stuck, and I'm talking about only those who are stuck, those who have progressed, that's well enough. So they are going to cause disturbance to you, try and block things for you and things like that. Basically, they're trying to draw your attention to the fact that they still have unsatisfied desires. It's like, assume that you suddenly tomorrow you don't have the physical body, but you still feel hunger. What are you going to do? It's a terrible state. You are hungry, but you don't have a body. You can't eat. Various things like this. So the rituals entail that in our dharma, we entail that we offer pindadana, rice balls and other mantras, specific food items on this specific tithis of departed ancestors, things like that we do.
It's there in a lot of cultures. It's there in a lot of Asian cultures as well, offering food to the dead.
Yes.
When we speak about these horror movies or hauntings, cases of hauntings, are we talking just about bhoot here, or it could be? It could be.
There are more dangerous than that. It's called the preta, which is very angry type of spirit.
Before we head into that preta section, you mentioned a very cool story about Tulsidas meeting Hanumanji. Do you think that that's where the Hanuman Chalisa was created?
No, I think the Hanuman Chalisa came in later on, but definitely Tulsidas ji got full blessings of Lord Hanuman, or because of that blessings, he was able to produce such a superlative Ramcharitmanas. It's the amazing text, but it was definitely the blessings of Lord Hanuman was there.
Okay. Why do you think the Hanuman Chalisa has this anti-ghost power?
That's because of... This answer will again deviate from the central theme of our discussion.
That's what it's about.
Yeah. So certain deities are there in Dharma who have two specific propensities. They're excellent as protected deities. Hanuman, Lord Hanuman is one of them. Bhairava is another. Certain deities are there. Number one. Number two, they respond faster. Certain deities are closer to the earth plane, then they respond faster. Hanumanji is one who is an immortal, who's never given up his body. So he's here in this plane. So he will respond to your pleas faster than others, specifically on certain areas. And if you ask Hanumanji, I want to become the richest man on earth, you may not get that, because his domain is strength, power, protection, all these things. Instant you'll get that if your devotion is correct. Okay. Same for Lord Bhairava also. He also protects very fast. On the other hand, if you have to call Lord Shiva, the Shiva Swarupa, Mahadev, he is in his samadhi. It will take you 9-10 lifetimes of calling before he responds. He will be aware that you are calling, but he may not be bothered to answer so easily.
Wow.
That is precisely the power of Hanuman Chalisa. It's a wonderful thing. There's so many sadhanas practices that can be done just with the Hanuman Chalisa.
Really? Let's talk.
Endless things.
Let's talk about this, because there is a lot of young Indians who are very into the Hanuman Chalisa, including myself, including Sanchit. Like,
superb thing. Superb means superb thing. In fact, I'm talking from the tantric perspective also. So Hanumanji is considered, Lord Hanuman is considered in the tantric perspective, is also considered as one of the protectors. Okay, one of the Veeras. There are 52 Veeras. Okay, Veer means there are powerful entities who protect an area, any area it can be, and there are these Veeras are modeled around the primary devatas. So there is Hanuman Veer. In the Nathpanthi Sampradaya, their worship is very popular. There is Narsingh Veer, who is basically on Lord Narasimha, which is the Vishnu Avatara, etc. So you invoke their blessings, whether it's a disease related negative entity, whether there's a spirit related negative entity, whether something else. If you keep doing Hanuman Chalisa with faith properly, and there are sadhanas, means suppose you want to, just for 40 days, somebody decides that I want to do Hanuman Chalisa Upasana. So you every day you sit and do at least 51, 54 times or 100 times Hanuman Chalisa. It will take you 1-2 hours, but if you're fluent, it will be very fast. You do this, you maintain certain basic rules. Celibacy is one of them required for getting a higher experience of Lord Hanuman, because he was the Akhanda Brahmachari. Okay, and you offer some naivedyam, some bhog, some laddu, something to Hanumanji, put some diya, etc., etc. And after you finish your Hanuman Chalisa recital, say 54 times or 100 times, calmly sit down and meditate on the name of Lord Rama. Do this for 40 days, you will have a transforming experience.
What do you mean calmly meditate on Lord Rama? Do you just say Rama, Rama?
Just
Rama?
that name, power of the name is superlative. He is, Hanumanji remains in this plane because he promised that as long as there is a name of Rama here, he will be here.
Okay.
And he is one of the best protector deities. The reason why he is so popular and he responds so fast, in my opinion, as I said, I've seen people who are more devotees of Lord Hanuman than even of Lord Rama. Okay, though Hanuman is considered as a bhakta of Rama, precisely because he remains in the physical plane. He has chosen not to leave this plane and go, and that is why he is very fast. If he is pleased with your devotion, if he's pleased with your call, and you're in trouble, some of the blessings, and the beauty of it is that they are gods, so they don't have to physically come to you. From wherever he may be, he can still get you protection. Just one blessing from you and he'll be protected.
It's like an armor.
Armor, absolutely.
Okay. Protection from pretas and
Anything.
pishachas. So I had a very deep-seated fear of the dark when I was growing up, and that's a big reason I was drawn even more to the Hanuman Chalisa, especially Bhoot Pishach Nikat Nahi Aave Mahavir Jab Naam Suna. When I would say that, I would, obviously I've learned the Hanuman Chalisa over the course of my life, but I began by reading it out of a book, and when it was that line, I would touch the book to my head saying, "Be with me." Probably because I was always drawn to these topics throughout my life, and they also say that when you speak about these topics, you're actually inviting those energies near you. So what we're doing here, and maybe even the listeners listening, they are kind of creating a sort of frequency that makes them one step closer to negative entities. My outlook on this is, one, go in with faith in God, and two, when you have knowledge about darkness, it brings you closer to the light. That's what I believe. So,
yes. And the other thing is that, in my opinion, generally, so it is one thing to be aware that there is a presence of this hierarchy of negative entities there, because after so as I was saying, Preta is one of the more angry type of things. Beyond that, there are other Pishachas and all that. Those are very dangerous. Very, very dangerous.
Let's speak about Pretas now, sir.
So Pretas are basically very angry type of spirits. Very angry. They are completely, they're like, having a mad dog tied up.
Are they formerly human beings?
They could have been formerly human beings, yes. But they are in a very negative state. The karmas have been so twisted that they are in a very negative state, and off and on, they may even be entities who have indulged in various kinds of negative practices.
Maybe criminals
very
who
dangerous.
have passed away, or tantrics who use tantrics.
Or very violent kind of deaths. Very violent kind of deaths.
Like what would be a very violent kind of?
Oh, suppose somebody has an accidental death at a very young age, okay, or somebody commits suicide or something like that. Those type of very non-conventional, and violent and dangerous deaths can often end into making that soul into a preta. And therefore, there are specific rituals done to calm down the preta. In the family, it has to be done by the family, in which family he or she was born. Okay. Otherwise, they are going to definitely cause trouble. Okay. All sorts of trouble.
What kind of trouble?
First of all, they can bring diseases. They can cause, if you're trying to work something, they can cause obstruction, and they can cause accidents also to family members. One of the things you'll see sometimes, if it's a very negative entity, negative kind of play, whatever you try to do, they're going to cause an obstruction, and things will start turning negative. Whatever your effort is, it will, instead of producing the right result, it's going to produce a wrong result, and you'll see that out of the blue things are happening. Even after your best effort, suddenly there's something. It's like you may even feel that perhaps it's not your destiny. Like weirdly, strange negative occurrences happen at a very close frequency, and even that is not a final sign that it is a preta. You will have to still take advice from somebody who's capable in these things to tell you. Even judging of horoscopes Jyotisha can tell you if there is a problem from a preta and things like that.
How do you know as an everyday human that you're coming in contact with one? And moreover, again, when we speak about these hauntings, when you go to a house and something starts troubling you. Like they've shown this in Conjuring and that whole Conjuring movie series as well. Were those pretas?
I haven't seen the movie, so I can't exactly comment. But many of the so from our perspective, many of the negative entities that come in their culture would fall in some of these categories of pretas, or max to max they may go up to categories of pishachas, I feel.
Okay.
Because beyond that, the entities that come in, they are they're so they don't beyond the so the other thing, the pishachas are also very dangerous, extremely dangerous. It's like a mad bull, okay, complete mad bull.
Can the pretas cause physical harm as well?
Yes, absolutely. There's so many things they can cause: diseases, this, that, etc. Accidents,
Scratches on you.
very negative. Yes, perhaps, but this is more. This is not exactly like a science. So science means everything is perfect in the sense that only a preta can do this, preta cannot do this. No, depends on how much power, how much negative power it has in it. Okay, but there are entities higher than that who can do.
Okay. Can these things enter your dreams?
Yeah, definitely.
That's the place
Very
they can
often.
cause a lot of harm.
Yeah. That's why very higher order yogis sometimes don't sleep. It's not possible for ordinary people, but there are people who may spend 12 years, 20 years never sleeping.
Okay. If you pass through a very haunted, for lack of a better word, place, can things stick on to you?
Yes.
Why would they choose you over other people?
It's not about you. It's just that you're passing through there. So you're there at the wrong time at the wrong place. But there is nothing wrong anywhere. So that means that you must have had some karmic link with that entity, some lifetime. That is why you are there at that particular place at particular time to end up in that negative state with respect to that entity.
And what a stupid way of inviting them to you.
Oh, there are so many ways.
Okay, I'll just pause here. So I definitely heard from people that are into this, and I think I mentioned it in the previous video, that there are really bad negative entities, and that they're just pits somewhere in the universe of such a darkness that, like, you know, like, it's like forces to be reckoned with, that is apparently exceptionally dangerous. And it was a shock to me to realize that. It was only maybe a realization of like 3 years ago, around COVID time, where I was speaking to someone very deeply spiritual, like deeply, and knowing about that for, you know, I don't know, 40 years. And so it's interesting because I also know that that entities can attach on you. I think I was told by someone that I had some entities as well on me, which I was like, I don't know if I believe that. But I was also told, by the way, and that just don't take it as an offense or anything like that. And that has kind of prevented me actually going to India, because apparently that there are many lost souls, and then if you get there, they attach a lot on you, and you don't kind of want to have that attachment. But I also now know that I think he's right. Like, if you're there at the wrong time, but also there might be like a karmic connection. I hear what he's saying, but you would then need to clear yourself off. And I think it's just so important to, you know, keep your vibrations high, because you know, like when you're sad or depressed, it's much easier for them to penetrate your energy as opposed to when you're vibrating at a high frequency. So let's continue.
There are some people who are very stupid, so they think that they will do some kind of those those
Ouija board.
Ouija board plus other spirit calling seances. All do not even step into those zones. You don't know what you're calling, and you will know it at a very late stage, if at all something comes in. And they come in very easily, by the way. It's not that difficult. If you keep practicing for a few days, it will start happening. Not at all that difficult. But my point is this: do not enter into this zone out of curiosity. Either you are one of those people who are like an exorcist, then enter into that. But that is formal, proper, trained entering, which is very different. It's just like you're entering into an army. You can't just say that tomorrow I want to go to the army and start fighting. They make you go through a training process. So somebody who's an exorcist knows how to protect himself, what needs to be done, etc. And perhaps his destiny is that he has to enter into that field. Okay. For other people, straight away do upasana of the main deities. Know how to protect yourself in case there is an overlap and interaction. Sometimes that happens. That is the best an average human being can do, because the dark is also very powerful. It doesn't end here. If you keep going, you will eventually face a lot of problems. And
I believe that.
Not only you, everybody connected to you. So they have this thing, by the way, to cause trouble to you. One of the easiest things is to your family, people who are closely connected, father, mother, wife, girlfriend, office, friends, etc. Somebody else gets into trouble, you will obviously get affected. You are a family member, you are living in society, you are connected to so many dots here. Even one, how many will you protect? That is the thing with these things. So have a basic idea of protection, and that idea of protection cannot come until you first do basic. You start upasana of a devata, then only all these things. Problem with people is that they want these things, but they neglect the primary root of this spiritual tree, which is the upasana of the deities in the way it has to be done.
Okay. Now let's talk about Pishachas, sir.
So they are more dangerous than pretas. They are most likely entities who never incarnated, many of them. Okay, some of them did, which is what is known traditionally as Brahma Pishacha. Brahma Pishacha is basically somebody who is highly knowledgeable in these spiritual matters, etc. But somehow they either misused that knowledge or did not give it, or became greedy or something like that. Hoarding of knowledge, not giving it to one who is fit for it. So the text Shastras do not tell you that randomly give the knowledge to everybody, but somebody who is fit for it, and still not the knowledge is passed on. And nature, then there's a hoarding of knowledge and a hoarding of these vidyas. Then such people can become what is known as Brahma Pishacha.
They began as human beings.
But they're very advanced human beings, not ordinary human beings.
Okay.
They're people who are top class upasakas in their life.
Okay.
And then there are other of these entities which are not human at all, they're very dangerous. They are by and large, the average conception and the imagination of what is negative in the world all falls into this category only. They're like mad bulls. They will just attack and attack and attack, things like that. Then there are various types of, there are various types of things. There's something known as, some people do upasana of that also, known as, just like Pishachas are there, something known as Pishachini, the female form of the Pishacha. Something known as Karna Pishachini, which is, some people do upasana of that. So they will come and tell you in your ear various things that are happening. Okay. But catch is that so if you're doing a higher Devata Upasana, you cannot do these things. The moment you start chanting higher Devata Upasana, they will not come near. They don't like the vibration of those mantras. Whether it is Shiva, Vishnu, Durga, etc., immediately they'll go.
I believe this is what we call jinns as well.
Now I don't know fully, but I have some idea of what this is. Jinns are a broad term to use the wide range of things, from bhuta to everything that fall under the jinn category, in my understanding of what jinns are. And they're there definitely. There are ways to counter them, ways to counter, just like the Pishachas or Hindu. Protection. I'm not talking about anything else that, fighting them. You're not to go into their domain and pick up a fight. That is stupid. But self-protection is very much possible. And self-protection both for these entities as well as from jinns and other things, very much possible. Only thing is, there's certain differences in the way it is to be done.
Where are they?
Where are who?
Pishachas.
Oh, they are confined to domains. They will not be in a room like this. Bhutas, Pretas can roam around. They are confined to specific areas that have extreme negative energy.
You're talking about
Pishachas. Extreme negative energy, very dark settings, very filthy settings. Very often they will be surrounded with extreme kind of foul odor. Okay, these are there. Various other things. Those are experts, they'll tell you more things, but these are some of the primary things. And recurring foul odor, which you cannot find a source from, which means that your house is next to some drain or something, some drainage leak is happening. Now that you know where it is coming from, you can fix it. But their presence often brings about a complete foul smell in that area. Okay. And they're extremely negative. They're unreasonable, irrational. You cannot, those entities you cannot talk to or judge.
What's their interest in human beings?
Influence.
Getting things done in the world.
Everybody likes attention. It is their way of getting attention.
Possibly also because they're confined to that one place.
That is there. But also it's like spreading your power or influence. So if you have power, how do you know that you have power? Unless you execute it, you don't know you have power. So it is their nature to cause these kind of disturbances if you are unfortunate enough to be in their vicinity or enter into that zone.
So this is where I'll pause. I wanted to say that to me, how he's describing all these entities, it almost, the way I would understand it is that this is like, don't want to say heaven and hell, but like the hell and then the negative entities, I think we would hear in our understanding form into kind of like, the dark category led by the person with the name starting with S, the person entity. So that is kind of why they would want influence over as well, because that's also their job.
The thing that I picked up from this whole Pishacha conversation is that angle of influence. What does that truly mean for the modern city human or the material life oriented human? And are there human beings in the world today who are rich, famous, successful, powerful as a result of them listening to these beings?
I can't say yes or no because I don't have any direct experience of, I hardly know anybody who's that rich. So the question does not arise for me. But otherwise, in theory, you cannot discount it. But then I don't have any direct evidence to say that, the rich and the famous somehow or the other are engaged in any kind of practices that have made them that. On the other hand, there is a wide amount of popularity of the occult aspect of Tantra, where you can influence things by specifically two classes of people, one engaged in politics and the other in films.
Surprise, surprise.
You're talking as a general thing all
As
over
a
the
general
world?
thing. India. I'm not even outside of India. I don't know. I'm talking about India, and that's because why? Some of the maximum. So in technically we call this as prayogas. Prayoga means an application of a power. There's nothing negative in it. It can be for anything. So somebody is sick. Somebody messages me ki tabiyat thoda kharab lag raha hai, something like that. I do some japa for him. Okay, that just a simple to the deity I worship that please cure that person, he gets cured. That's an application of power, but there are technicalities involved. More. This is giving a simplistic understanding, but there are more details understanding. So this thing happens across India in all temples. Certain places it happens much more than others. Kamakhya it happens a lot. Ujjain it happens, Mahakal temple. A few other places it happens a lot. Because I keep going there for my upasana, or my own practices. I keep traveling to various temples, so I get to see them. So these two broad classes of people get these kind of prayogas done very often, either not only for positive aspects, which means that to boost their career and things like that, but also very often to remove enemies from the path or sidetrack various things. So they do the full scale of it.
Where does karma come into play here?
Oh, karma is always waiting. But the thing is that human beings are like that. The greed is like that. We want it right now. Karma we'll see when karma comes. We'll see like that. So there is this, the beautiful question that Yudhishthira was asked by a yaksha. Yaksha is a kind of higher positive being.
Yeah.
Okay, in the lake in Mahabharata, various questions were there. Very famous yaksha prashna. And then he asks that what is the greatest wonder in the world? Yudhishthira says that every day we are seeing people dying, yet everybody believes I'm not going to die. Well, this is how you operate in the world. Okay, so same with karma. I just let me get this done first. Karma we'll see later. Okay.
Oh, and I'll tell you one thing that I know about karma is that when you are higher evolved spiritually as a person, the karma will catch up. This is how you know that you perhaps are a bit more evolved, is that your karma is going to catch up right away. You do something and it just like comes right at you, with the very short span of time. But the people that perhaps you see that they don't do good, and you're wondering like when is this going to catch up with them, it might not even be in this lifetime. So because I've had this conversation with friends of mine, and it's apparently it's way worse. So it's much easier if you get slapped in the face right away, rather than this carried over to your next lifetime.
I mean, when you use these things for your own material ambition, there's no free lunches in life.
Right.
What's the outcome? You are paying some price.
Yes. Always.
What is the price you're paying?
So the question is, I'm assuming a question from a positive point of view.
Yep.
Positive point of view.
When you're using it for career progression, Ma Tara, come to me and give me more money. What are you paying in return?
First of all, at any given point when we are praying to the deity, as I said in the I think the previous episode, I mentioned that all kinds of avicharya or black magic start from the human heart. Okay, the moment you have the desire that XYZ has to be done, etc., and then you go and execute it in a manner that has higher chances of success. That's all the paddhati, the process is showing. It is not making a moral judgment. It is not even taking responsibility of the karma. It is your karma. Okay, you make a mistake and you will do. Now, karmic repercussion is always there for everything. There's no doubt about it. One is that you worship the deity. You do the puja paddhati of the devata, which means that the way Matara has to be worshipped, you do, etc., the anushtana, and then you pray to her. There is no karmic consequence of a prayer. You can pray, but remember one thing: you are the one who is praying. The one who will grant the prayer has complete right to reject your prayer also. If that is there in your mind, you are free, no problem. But the moment you want, no, I am not satisfied with the prayer, I need an exact execution of this result, and there are methods of doing that also. There's not our dharma is brilliant. It is given absolutely stunning methods, A to Z, depending on where you are. So there will be a consequence of that, some payment. Somebody is very sick, somebody is having a trouble, somebody having a specific problem, and to remove that problem, say another individual does prayoga of a very powerful Mahavidya, one of the most powerful popular Mahavidyas, Ma Baglamukhi. Okay, does the prayoga, results also come, but some consequence this person will have to face, whether he gets an injury, he gets some issue or the other, because the balancing of nature will always happen. The one way to get out of this, which is very difficult, is that you first attain to a connection with one of your Ishtadevata, and you do a prayoga not for smaller material gains. It's only when there's a permission from the deity. Deity says that you can do this. then you know that he or she is going to take care of the karma. It's not your headache. Your job at the higher stages of sadhana, your job is to blindly follow what the devata is telling you. But higher stages, initial stages, you don't have any contact. You don't understand only what the deity is trying to say. But yes, I have seen some people who are very good in helping others, and they're doing positive things, by the way. Okay, somebody is sick, somebody is not getting a job, somebody has a lot of loans, things like that, and they do normal upasana of their deity, and they try to help those people. Help also happens, miraculously help happens, but there is always a karmic payback on their own lives. Always. Either they will fall sick or something or the other. These things happen. I mean, this is the way it is. There are no free lunches in nature. Once you understand that, then the intelligence is to know that can you handle that karma. Before even entering into that, somebody is throwing a ball at you. One of my gurus used to say, somebody is throwing a ball at full pace. First, you know that can you hold that ball. It should not be the case that just to help somebody, you only end up in the dire straits, in the worst condition. Then there's no intelligence in that. So you understand who it is that you're trying to help, what kind of karmas that person is, and whether you can sustain the impact of it.
Okay. Rakshasas and Asuras.
Okay.
So the Rakshasas are mentioned in Mahabharata as well.
Right.
Same thing?
Same thing. Only thing is that they're very unlikely to come today.
So
directly.
Back when they mentioned Bakasur, who used to eat food as well as human beings, it was in a physical form.
In a physical form. And not some of the asuras were not even physical also. It may have been at a time when, very ancient time of the rishis. See, they used to come in the physical form when the human beings were of that caliber. Today, if an asura were to incarnate, there's nobody will be able to stand. No human being has that capacity only. Yeah, and I'm talking about not just you, me. I'm talking about the people who are the best saints. Even they can't handle their power. They have such raw power. You can imagine the story of the asuras when the Devi Mahatyam, if you read, which is a text of Ma Durga, and she's fighting Mahisasura. The battle goes on for 100 years. 100 years she's fighting.
Is this an astral battle?
Consider it an astral battle that happened before humans of this era populated. But Mahisasura had blessings from God, so he became very, very powerful. And then the goddess had to incarnate to destroy.
What do you mean before humans of this era populated?
So what I mean to say is that so the society as we know it today. So it is possible that the time of the rishis were very ancient. I cannot say positively one way or the other, but in the sense, both in the physical features as well as their spiritual, physical, emotional stamina and strength and capacity was far more than ours. Okay. Also, the population was far less. I mean, if you look at the population of the world, we are at one of the peak times. There's been, I think, from mid-80s, because of certain advancements, population graph has gone just like this. Okay. Population graph goes like this. So there are own consequences of that. But we are talking of an era, and specifically this Mahisasura and all that perhaps would have happened at a time when only a selected few rishis were there. Not even the average people like this. Okay.
This is millions of years ago, possibly.
I don't know. I can't fix a timeline.
Okay.
But let's say that. But the good part is that suppose you are a great upasaka, you can experience that battle even today of the great God. Oh yes, the great upasaka. I'm not saying an ordinary person. That's why we say that the activity of the gods are lila. Lila means it's a play. Even when they're destroying the asura, they are creating an energy stamp so powerful that thousands of years, 6,000, 7,000 years ago, by remembering that story, you are getting spiritually benefited.
Very science fiction oriented question, but is it also a way of saying that very high levels of sadhana allow you to time travel?
Time travel in what sense?
Is there multiple senses?
No, I want to understand in what was in your mind when you say time travel.
X-axis, Y-axis, Z-axis, 3 dimensions. Time, 4th dimension.
Okay. So time travel in the sense, physically time travel?
Yeah.
I don't think, I have no idea. Actually, I don't think that's possible.
Okay.
But knowing what happened at a very ancient time, accurate knowledge, even if you were not physically present, that is possible.
Okay.
It's very much possible.
Okay.
I believe in this. I think that what is time is actually a spiral. And what I know from people is like you can jump through time. So one of my friends, he told me about the story that just crossing a street, and he just suddenly gets into space, and then he told me that he saw his possibility of crossing the street being hit by a tram, taking a left turn. So there were like 4 possibilities right in front of him. So you can see like different avenues of where you would go. But there is also a Netflix series that talks about the time and time jumping. But from what I gather from that series is that if you want to jump time, you have to die in that particular reality to live in the next one. Which we don't know, but I do believe that the time is a spiral and that it's possible to jump through.
Rakshasas in 2022.
I don't think that there are any Rakshasas here, because I don't think that they have. So they will not incarnate in this plane. Their power is way too much. And Asuras are even more, but they don't incarnate in this plane like that. They're extremely powerful. Extremely, we cannot even imagine. They're like a god, just like a Devata, only in the negative sense. Okay. But they can influence people. Their influence is very much possible. They can influence the minds of people and do various things. And
from the plane they're sitting in.
Yeah, that they can do. In fact, some people believe, now I can't either vouch for it one way or the other. Some people believe that one of the things that Lord Krishna and Arjuna was that caliber Upasaka also. He was not just a fighter, he was a great practitioner. Arjuna, by the way. So they ensured that the Asuras do not get physically born, because they knew that the Kali Yuga people don't have the power to take that. So they ensured that the Asuras don't get physically born here, or the Rakshasas don't come here physically. But the influence cannot be stopped. So there is always a choice you have. You want to follow that influence or not?
Okay.
So this is interesting because the more he's talking, the more it reminds me of like when, he's talking about your deities, it almost kind of reminds me of like in my, if I would put the lens of what I've been learning so far on it feels like the deities are almost like the equals of like the archangels and angels and all that kind of stuff, because you would have like lots of not that many archangels, but there's always an equivalent of white and a dark, like positive and negative polarities. But this is where I think people get it wrong, and that's when I talk to spiritual people, it's becoming more and more apparent, because the thing is, like, both of them are God, it's creation, and both of them are the polarities are important to create the fabric, so like the dark angels or archangels, their job is to thread the web in order for the light to come to light, because if it was all consuming dark or consuming white, you wouldn't be having this fabric that we currently live in. But it's kind of I don't know, I might be completely wrong here, but it just kind of reminds me of the concept that I'm aware I wanted to share.
There's a difference between the two, but Asura, Rakshasa.
Yeah, Asuras have a higher IQ. Let's put it this way. You cannot argue with an Asura also. You will tell him one scripture, he will tell you 10 scriptures. You will tell him one logic. He is a master of logic. He's a master of the intellect. He's a being who has exceptional intelligence. He's a being who has tremendous. But remember this thing: they are not atheists. They are not nastikas. They don't believe that there are gods. They fully know that there are gods, but they want to do their stuff. A Nastika, what I tell a non-believer, is at the lowest rung of the person. He's the one who denies reality, which is fine. I'm not even asking him to change what his idea is. But Asura is not one who does not believe in the divine and does not believe in the presence of the deities. He is a terrific upasaka, exceptional practitioner. He has got that powers, and then he misuses his powers. He's fully aware of all the realms. He knows what is occult. He knows everything. He's equally confident and equally adept in the material, rational world as he is in the spiritual realm.
How does he expect that he will escape karma?
I don't think they look at karma in the way we do, first of all, because the other thing is that they live in realms where time moves very slowly. Our realm, time moves the fastest, which means that Maya or an enveloping of the mind or attachment, let's put it this way, you get attached to something, it could be anything, etc. So this happens very often in our plane, but at the same time, progress can happen very well faster in this plane. In few lifetimes, you can progress. You can go down after a few lifetimes. Yeah. But in those realms, time is very slow. So so in fact, some of the stories of the Asuras, like coming back to Mahisasura only, the Kalika Puran mentions that Mahisasura was incarnated 3 times. By the way, there's an interesting thing about Mahisasura. Says that Mahisasura was an Amsa, was a part of Lord Shiva. See, the play of, that's how our culture looks at these Asuras. They say that when the great gods are involved, that is because at the immediate level, there is a fight that is going on, but the impact of that is still going to be positive for the whole universe. So Shiva says that, how do I show to the world the power of the goddess? So he incarnates, gives a blessing, a part of him, not fully. Little bit of energy, projection, and emanations from Shiva, gets born into the family of an Asura. He does tremendous tapasya, because without that power of Shiva, he cannot do that kind of tapasya, and he gets blessings that he cannot be killed by God, he cannot be killed by human being, everything. He forgets, he mentions everything. Only thing he forgets is to add a woman. Okay. So that one thing is then used later on. 3 times he gets killed, not once, 3 times in 3 kalpas, 3 cycles of creation, he gets killed by the goddess Durga. And in fact, there's a beautiful section where Mahisasura actually, before he's in the second kalpa, we call it the 3 kalpas of death. Second kalpa, when Durga manifests as Bhadrakali, and he's an upasaka, by the way. He's not, Asuras are not non-believers, by the way. They know the reality of these things. They know fully. So he knows in his meditation, he sees that he's going to die. And he sees that who this great power is, this goddess is. Okay. And he goes into rapture and bliss. And he tells the goddess that, I don't want anything. Okay. I am completely your devotee. I know that this is meant to happen. I don't even want anything. I just want one blessing from you, that I should get offerings in the yagyas. So yagyas are done, Vedic yagyas are done for the gods. Okay, Asuras, you cannot give any offerings to them. So Ma Durga, in the form of Bhadrakali, Bhadrakali, the Madhyama Kalpa we say, from which the Navaratri Upasana has come, by the way, all these stories. She says to him that I cannot do that, because if I do that, it will completely turn the balance of the world. Dharma will completely get rattled, because the yajna offerings can go only to the gods. He said, but I'll do something for you. I'll give you a blessing, so that whenever there is Durga Upasana happening, it has to be shown in that posture where her leg is on the Mahisasura and she's killing him. And during the Durga Puja that actually happens in the mantras, one mantra is given to the Asura also. He says that by this act, you will remain immortal till the time there is Durga Upasana that happens among humans. And then what she does, she puts a veil on his mind, so that he doesn't remember this conversation, so that he can fight with his full force. Because if he has this knowledge that he is who he is, he will not fight. He's meant to die. Okay. And then there is this whole battle that happens, and she kills him. And that story till now is inspired Durga Upasana and Navratri and everything that we do. It's so beautiful. So that when you go to the Karan Jagat, all this good, bad, etc., all get balanced. Then there is no, in our dharma, there is no one single Satan, divine, kuch nahi. Nothing.
Wow. You know how young people say, I'm trying to build legacy in the world. Well, even Asuras say that.
Yes.
But I want to build legacy for time immemorial. And when we're celebrating Navratri with Dandiya sticks, somewhere you're remembering the Asura also.
As a devotee of the, and our second conception is that anybody who dies in the hands of the great gods is liberated, by the way.
Interesting.
Whoever, in fact, not just in the case of this, we see in the case of the Shiva Purana, when Shiva is destroying Andhakasura, and Andhaka is one of the Asuras who was created, very powerful, etc., etc. And there's a lot of battle and beautiful description in the Shiva Purana, how Shiva's whole army is going with Shiva, okay, the Ganas and things like that, etc. At the last moment in the battle, he pins him in his Trishula and he lifts him up, okay. And Shiva at that time has become the energy of Bhairava, the fierce form there. And then in that condition, the Asura is begging to him, saying that, Lord, I am your devotee, okay. And that state, then Shiva is kind. He says that, okay, you will become a devotee, you will become one of my Ganas, the people who are hanging out around Shiva. So that is a kind of liberation. That is a kind of mukti, of freedom.
Again, do you think that there could be possibly billionaires or world leaders who are being influenced by these?
I can't say one way or the other. I really can't say. There is a possibility. But one thing is there, wealth has a corrupting influence, huge amounts of wealth. Average amount of wealth is fine, but huge amounts of wealth extracts certain prices, whether it comes to health or something else or something like that. Wealth does have an asuric influence on it. And this is not my words, this is Sri Aurobindo's writings. Huge amounts of wealth, not ordinary wealth. Ordinary wealth is perfectly okay, but extreme amount of wealth when it comes, there are always certain asuric influences that get tied with it.
What are asuric influences?
Asuras trying to influence the environment. For example, if you have huge amount of wealth, you may have to protect the wealth. You may have to end up doing certain things which are not normal or which you would normally not do. And there will be places where you will do something that is adharma, which is incorrect, unrighteous, something. Negative things you'll have to do. The moment you do one, you are opening the gateway. So there's a belief that huge amounts of wealth can also have certain amount of asuric influence.
Can it attract asuras?
Whether it attracts asuras or whether they go and find, maybe. I don't know exactly, but a huge amount, obscene amount of wealth. I'm not talking about ordinary wealth. Okay, huge amount of wealth does involve negative practices. And we negative practices means I'm not talking about tantric practice and all that. I'm saying that some of the other negative karma is there that gets involved just to maintain that wealth as a protection. In fact, you'll see very interestingly that we worship Mahalakshmi for wealth, right? Mahalakshmi for wealth. So Lakshmi is not only wealth, she gives a sense of prosperity, of well-being inside, that happy space that you call about in using today's language. She is the one who controls it. So you may very well be a beggar in the road, but if you have that happiness inside, it is her blessing that gives you. Whereas there are beings who control wealth specifically, very specifically, or controllers of wealth, certain kinds of yakshas and all that. They guard those wealths very ferociously. You will have the wealth on the condition that you cannot have your peace of mind.
This is the deal with the devil thing that they
speak I don't know about that. I'm talking only from our perspective, because unless I study that properly, I can't do a comparison.
You mentioned that gun.
And I'll do a comparison. I've read a lot about this, and it sounds very much like it. It's kind of what I've seen in many, many videos, is what actually happens. Don't know. I mean, I don't know, right? I'm just relaying the information as to what I've listened to. Whether this is true or not is a different story, but there are many different and interesting people that spoke on this topic. So take it as you will.
Gandharvas and yakshas take birth in human form and then become excellent at something that they do.
Yes.
Like maybe great music composers, great musicians, great artists.
Yes.
Great what else?
Depends. Great people of excellent knowledge in certain fields sometimes can be.
Am I speaking to one?
Okay. Just a generic statement.
Okay.
No, I am just an ordinary upasaka, that's all. I'm just
okay.
So, but that's possible. very often beings, and not just Gandharva and all that, beings from higher realms also can get born, by the way. Okay.
Even in today's day.
Oh yes. Even if the karma is like that.
For what purpose?
It could be various things. Sometimes there may be something left unfinished to finish that off, some karmic thing. There could be sometimes that some desire was there for something that needs to be fulfilled, or sometimes it is for, as I said, lok kalyana, which is that for the benefit of humanity. Somebody of the caliber of Lahiri Masha, who was the founder of Kriya Yoga, it's an amazing caliber state. I mean, we can't even imagine. Why would a being like that? I mean, I am damn sure that he must have attained to his high states in past births only. Why would he want to come down? That is because this play can be created with Babaji and him, so that this knowledge comes to the people, and even if 5 people are benefited, that's good.
Do these beings know that they are those beings when they are in their human form?
Mostly don't.
They don't.
Mostly don't.
And what is the nature of reality?
No, they will have to go through the process, as I keep mentioning. So moment you're born, nature is going to cause a filtering in your mind. So you will not remember the past.
Mhm.
Right? You will not remember the past, and just like any other person, you'll have to work through the whole process like anybody else. But because of your samskaras, which is the tendencies that you have gathered through your past practices, they will drive you into those zones or those areas, those practices. And once you start doing that, nature will cooperate with you because you have done these things in the past, and there'll be an unraveling. In fact, a good 80% of the spiritual path is just recovering what you might have done in past. After that, 20% new will start.
Sportsman?
Possible. I'm just guessing. I it's not that I know everything about it, but this is the broad idea. Okay.
One last question for you, sir, on this one. Where does space come into all this? The cosmos. What's out there, according to Tantra, according to Hinduism? What's actually out there? And I'm not specifically asking about aliens here. Generally, I mean, if you actually just study the size of space, obviously there's other life forms out there. There's no way we can be the only ones that's arrogant to think that way, etc., etc. But is there a role that space plays in Maya and Tantra, in all these things? When we're talking about Asuras, Rakshasas, are there other planets which also have astral realms that are home to these beings?
I believe there are other planets that will have various kinds of beings who are spiritual in their way. We may or may not know about it. And I think some of the references do come to us in our scriptures also. There are not only multiple cycles of universes, but there may be other beings. It's not a yay about it. Space, there's a famous dictum that goes in yoga, Yatha Brahmande Tatha Pinde, or Yatha Pinde Tatha Brahmande. Whatever is there in the universe is also there in the body. Now take it in the other sense. Whatever is happening inside your body, all these things that you say, recognize that I have a physical body, I have an astral body, I have a Karan Sharir, that is reflected in space also. It's fully reflected in space. So this whole domain of the astral, where all this good, bad, etc. going on, okay, and it's beautiful also, by the way. Astral, no need to take it as a negative sense. Some of the greatest pieces of art have come from the astral plane. Inspirations from the astral plane, beings who inspired people to create some of the greatest pieces of art. Legendary art that has stood the test of time for centuries after centuries. These all come from the astral planes. So there is this domain. There are mantras in the Vedas and the other places where they will tell you about there's the space, then there's the antariksha and all that. So this is a correlation to what is happening inside you. There's up to a domain is there in the space, for example, and I'm not putting so many kilometers and all that difference, where the astral plane exists, where the thoughts, ideas, emotions, feelings, good, bad, everything of human beings and all the animated entities are passing around. Okay, you go beyond that, there's silence. Karan Sharir starts. Zoom. Everything is silent. Do the gods exist? Yes. The gods exist. In fact, in a very unconventional way, the one we worship as time, what we call time, the personification of time, the one who controls and holds time in his body is Mahakal, Shiva, almost a form of Shiva. And one who controls and holds space is Vishnu. These are the two entities. So the more you go, it is like if you go into Vaishnava theology, you'll see that there are realms of Vishnu. There's Para Vishnu, Para Brahman, who's greater realms. From there, he projects his divine incarnations every cycle when there is a balance that is lost in this plane. Okay. So once you go to those realms, do the great gods play their role? Absolutely, they're still there. There's no doubt about it in that space. And specifically, the concept of space, I feel, is very strongly linked to the personification of the deity of whom we worship very strongly as Lord Vishnu. This is my conception. I'm not arguing about it, yes or no. Somebody doesn't believe it, that's perfectly fine. I'm not even imposing it. The other thing is that this has a link to the Upasana. Now, space may be whatever it is. Most people, if they go into space, they'll go crazy. There's no sound, nothing. You have to live with yourself. That's the most dangerous thing in the world. So you have to be, you're alone, but not lonely. That's the difference. If you force somebody into being alone, 2 days later they'll be lonely. Lonely means you are craving for company. Somewhere or the other is there. No problem. That's fine. That's normal. That's human. But once you go into that zones, you will know that there is also the possibility where you are swastha. You are satisfied in yourself. You don't need you don't have to see the face of a person, and you will not go crazy about it. You will remain that same. Yeah, perhaps you will not speak. You will have to speak so much, and then you will have to. But it will be a very blissful existence. It's a different matter altogether, but it's possible. I'm not saying everybody will do it, and everybody should even try. Many people I know will go completely nuts if they're put into an isolation kind of thing. But sometimes it helps in Upasana. Sri Aurobindo, when he was put into jail in a solitary confinement, only text he had was the Bhagavad Gita, and day in and day out he read not the face of a person he could see. Nobody. For months he stayed in there. And during that state, he had tremendous experiences of Krishna. And to the extent that that is like a transformative state that happened. For months, he had no human contact. Solitary confinement in that era in British jail is like strictest thing possible. Okay. No human contact, nothing. Absolutely. No human face. Day after day after day, only one text. He kept reading the Gita over and over and over and over until he had a complete transformation. And he had an experience of Krishna where he saw a state of Advaitam, oneness with Krishna. He saw that everything has become Krishna. Even the jailer is Krishna. Even the judge who's sitting is Krishna. Even the jail, the rods of his energy, Krishna. Okay. And then he comes out a completely trans. He's a saint. Comes out from there. So space has a link to this is the outer space. There's another space inside. Okay.
Yeah.
That space, it's very difficult to explain that, but if somebody enters into that space, that is where the divine, the deity will stay. Prana pratisthapana, invoking the pranas. Okay. Inside the human body, the most divine part is only two. One is deep inside the heart. Deep inside, mind you, not the surface. The surface heart has all sorts of emotions, desires, likings, dislikings. It's the emotional body. It's useless. Behind that, deep inside, somewhere in the yogic process, somebody goes very deep. You will enter space very different. That's like a space where the gods can play. That's pure enough to hold the deities. But Devata will not come into a place that is not pure. He will not even touch that space. And the other domain, this is where we have in yoga called the Vishnu Granthi. You open, that's a knot. It's a Gordian knot of. It gets pierced by Shakti, Kundalini, call it, or whatever else you want to call it, a consciousness. It gets pierced, and then you experience something divine, indescribable bliss. Vishnu Upasana gives you bliss. In the long run, I'm not saying everybody who's doing is attaining to it. Then there is the Rudra Granthi. Rudra is here. It's something, a knot opens up, and you enter space. You go beyond time. He's the controller of time.
Maybe access to higher dimensions.
It's not even higher dimensions. It's higher, but this is the highest dimension. This is the domain where even all this we talked about, this Bhoot, Pret, Pishach, they also don't have permission to enter those zones. And if somebody has activated either of these two, this is more difficult, by the way, to open the Rudra Granthi and experience that, open the Vishnu Granthi and experience that space inside, that individual, ever protected. He can stand in the middle of 100 asuras, they will not even dare touch him.
Wow.
Because that protection is very different.
1,000 more questions in my head, and I've got a strong intuition to stop. Maybe it's just for saving content for later. Maybe it's because in this piece.
Wow, this was a very interesting talk. I kept on stopping through because I know myself, sometimes I forget my thoughts. But I think one thread for me was throughout the fact that how, like, there are similarities, but also like how your cultures develop and different things, and like about the deities, and it just seems like richer in perhaps what I have learned so far. So it has been fascinating, but for the most, it has been the validation in my head of what I actually know, which is really nice. I found it very very interesting. What were your thoughts? What did you think? How do you feel about the dark entities? Are you afraid? Do they believe that they exist? I would love to know in the comments below. And with that, I will leave you, and I will see you in the next video. If you did like this video, please share, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to this channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Until then, please do take care. Sending much love. Bye bye.